Okay, hello, folks. I'm on over here now. I just left the other channel, and my husband doesn't usually join me on this channel. Um, I'm sorry, got this blanket in the way. Okay. So I'm over here. I don't know where my phone went, and I wanted to uh, just talk about a few things. And first of all, welcome to the channel. And be sure I'm typing it in here so that when everybody comes on, you'll know. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Oh, Lord, I know I can spell this word. Good grief. Okay, I got it. Okay. Okay, you guys sign in. Like, let me know that you're here, who you are, and where you're signaling from so that I can acknowledge you. I like to do that because I figure you could be anywhere else, but you're here with me. So I might as well say hello and acknowledge the fact that you are here. Now, for those of you that did not leave my last channel or just left my last channel or my last broadcast, um, I still have a little bit of a cough. So if you see me cough every now and then, um, don't run, go get your mask. It's okay. You'll be you'll be all right. It's just got this weird tickle thing. I don't know what it is. Seems like sometimes when I take a deep breath or whatever, at yes, um, it tickles. I don't know what to tell you. It tickles. So um, then I start coughing a little bit. But anyway, let me get some water here, and and hopefully that'll help with that weird phenomenon that goes on. Hello, Beverly. How are you, Marilyn? All right, Marilyn's in the house. Okay, so as you guys can see, or unless you've been living under a rock, you can tell that things are really upside down right now on our planet. And I have been saying for months, I will say it again, it is by design. There's no accident that we're going through what we're going through. Um, God has a plan in all of this, okay? I'm not saying God did this. I'm saying he didn't fall off his throne. He knows what's going on and he has a plan. But here's the thing, I wanted to talk to you guys and reinforce some things that I have been saying for a long time. Now, I haven't been on I haven't been on YouTube. Well, I think I came on YouTube in uh I don't know. It's been several years, 7 years maybe, here and there. Um, 2014 anyway, for sure. But anyway, but I've been telling people for a long time. Hi, JB. JB was just on my other channel, the Christopaths, where my husband joined me on that channel. Um, I had been telling people for the better part of, gosh, I guess I had said on the other channel was 10 years, but I really think it's more like 12 years that I have been trying to prepare people for hard times like what we're going through now. Now, for some people, it's harder than it is for others, depending on your economic structure, where you fall in regard to being able to care for yourself and your family. It could be harder for you than it is for other people. Um, and that's not to say it's not hard for them. People that have had or that have a lot of money in the stock market have been really going through the ups and downs and the ups and downs and lots of loss and a little bit of gain and then more loss and a little bit of gain. over this past year for sure. During the last administration, uh, I didn't have any money in the stock market, and but the stock market was like at an all-time high. It was doing very, very well, and a lot of people that normally wouldn't have a lot of asset gained a lot of money during that time. And then one election later, I mean, people lost money by the millions. And it has been very difficult for those people, as well as people that only had a little bit of money in the stock market, lost a lot of their little bit. So it's been a difficult thing. However, I want to say something about that. You guys, if you see me, oh, my front door, I'm at the RV, as you can tell, and the front door is open, and the weeds have sprung up. So if you see me keep rubbing my nose, it's not running, it's just itching, because weeds. Anyway, so I wanted to talk to you guys about how to I just want to try to help you manage some things if you need to, or if you don't know how to, in the current climate that we're in. First of all, you have to rebudget. If you have not received a raise since all this craziness happened, you are losing money. You are, because you're spending more and you're getting less. Shrinkflation is what they call it. In other words, you used to be able to get 5 pounds of sugar. Now it's 4 pound bags. Right now, that happened a while ago. And you could go to the store and look at something and say, that used to be bigger than that. Or you could even look at maybe sweets and things that you used to get when you were younger, and now you look at it, and when say a particular candy would cost you, you could get 5 pieces for a penny. Remember those days? And now those 5 pieces might cost you $1.50, or something like that. And the pieces are smaller. That's shrinkflation, people. Smaller, but it costs you more money. Looking at the gas prices, what's happening with fertilizer, this is an ongoing issue that the powers that be, is not just this administration, it is nations around the world that are in league to destroy the currency because they want to bring in something else. Now, why do they want to do that? Well, because they've milked this currency to death. They have printed it and printed it and printed it, and there's been more money printed in the last 12 months at one time than in the history of this nation ever. Okay? Let that hit you. More money in 1 month was printed than in the history of the nation. So, your dollar is not worth what it used to be worth. Now, so what does that mean? That means when you go to the store and you want to buy milk that was, I don't know, maybe $1.50 for a quart of milk. Now it might be $3 for that same quart. Or you go to the gas pump. Now I remember several years ago when gas was 75 cents a gallon. Look at it now. And so you've got the issue of people needing to go to work that are working low, what I would call low wage paying jobs. Maybe they're working in retail, maybe they're working as waitresses or waiters, and they really depend on the tips and things to help get them through, right? Well, people aren't really eating out necessarily as much because they can't afford to now, which means that those people that are working those jobs are practically working for nothing if they rely on tips. Well, they're not getting the tips because the people aren't coming to tip them. And if they do come, the tip is a lot less than what it used to be because they can't afford to tip like they used to. For example, if you have a waitress that's working a section of a restaurant where she's used to people, I call them high rollers, she's used to people or he's used to people leaving tips that are like, um, $15 tip, $20 tip. Now they might be getting $5, $3, $10, as opposed to the $20 or the $15, which means that they're taking home less money. Now they still have to drive from their house or have bus fare or whatever set aside so that they can get to the job, which has probably also gone up. The token prices or whatever the bus fare is now in their respective city has gone up. Why? Because the price of gas has gone up and the buses have to keep rolling. And the only way they can keep rolling is to put gas in them. So they have to spend the money to buy the gas, which means what? Which means the fare has gone up because the bus driver has to be paid. They have to have the gas and they have to get from point A to point B to the end of their line, from the start of their shift to the end of their shift. They have to drive back and forth, back and forth. Well, the gas is costing them more money. So now these people who are working these jobs have to decide between groceries or gas. This is where we are. Now, we've always had this problem, but not since the 20s during the Great Depression, right? Or the 30s, whenever that happened. This is a very bad situation for a lot of people, especially if they don't know how to manage their money. So, unfortunately, some people were working two jobs already, just trying to pay their rent. And it's a very hard thing to think about. I've been trying to think of ways that I could help people. Now I'm saying that from my heart because I don't like to see people that are doing their best to make it struggling and getting to a place of hopelessness where they just give up and they kill themselves, or they just want out. They just want out because they can't think of any other way to make things work. And that is very, very sad. And so I was talking to my husband a few days ago, and I said, I got to do something, and we got to do something to help people. I was thinking about maybe, perhaps I'd go to a Sam's. We don't have Costco here. And maybe I'd buy a whole bunch of bulk items and take them to a food pantry or something, and help people like that or something. I don't know. But we've got to become a community. We've got to be willing to help other people. Now, there's something to be said about people who absolutely will not go to work. The ones that were running up and down the street with their signs and stuff. And, you have people up in Congress saying, when they tell you that you can go back to work, just tell them no. Tell them no. That's what AOC said. And she was getting paid. She was going to work. And sometimes she didn't go to work. They took more vacations. That this Congress has taken more vacations and given themselves a 21% raise while everybody else is suffering, right? While everybody else is experiencing this inflation that we're going through right now. Remember to sign in because I can see how many are on here, but I don't know where you're from, where you're signaling from, or what your name is. So I'd like to acknowledge you if I can see you in the comment section. The first thing I want to talk about is food. Okay. We can't do anything about the price of food right now, and it's going to get worse because now we're going to have a shortage of fertilizer. If the farmers cannot fertilize their crops, they're going to be producing a lot less food. If they produce a lot less food, then a lot less food will be going to the grocery stores. The grocery stores have to stay open. They have to pay their soaring electric bills to keep all the refrigerators running and all that kind of stuff. If they're going to keep their refrigerators running and keep their lights on, they have to go up on their prices. Not only do they have to go up on their prices because they have to pay their bills, but they also have to pay these farmers for their goods that they're bringing to their store. And the farmers have to charge more because they've still got the same bills that they got to take care of, maintaining their equipment and all that kind of stuff. And They've got less fertilizer. They've got less crops, so they have to charge more money for less stuff. Do you see how this works? And it all falls to the consumer. Hi, Carol. It all falls to the consumer. And this is really a very sad thing. And you know what it is? It's mismanagement of world economics at the highest levels. And when I say the highest levels, I'm not talking about this administration. I'm talking about high level administrations around the world, all these different countries that are in cahoots together doing this to the general populace of this planet because they want your stuff. It's sick. These are psychopaths that are running the world right now. They've been running the world for a long time. It's just that the last administration, because that administration flipped everything on its head and everybody was prospering and getting along, and there were no wars at all for 4 years. None. We weren't in any conflicts. Our Vietnam missing in action were coming home. They were coming home in caskets, but they were coming home. People that were lost in the Korean War, their remains were being brought back. We had peace with all these other countries, even though they may not have liked the administration. That administration was not a punk. Okay, they were not taking no crap from these other countries that have been taking advantage of us for decades. I mean, decades taking advantage of us. And they said, yeah, no, not on my watch. And so everything got flipped on his head. Next thing you know, our country started prospering. Everywhere my husband and I went, and we traveled a lot, there were signs up, help wanted, help wanted. There was more jobs than there were people to fill the positions. And I'd never seen anything like that in my lifetime either. That was just a year ago, people. Look where we are now. Now we're over there again, meddling in somebody else's issue, right? The last administration was bringing our soldiers home. It's time. We've been over there in that country for 20 years. We have gotten absolutely nowhere. We need to bring our people home. We've lost thousands upon thousands of lives for what? For tribal wars that have been going on for centuries, that we are not going to solve that issue. They can learn to get along or they can cancel each other out, but it ain't our business. We need to bring our people home. And that's what they were trying to do. Now, like that administration or hate that administration, they have a very good track record for the stuff that they were trying to get done. And the things that they did not get done for the good of the country is because you had a communistic Congress in place. Yes, I know it was one party, but 80% of that party are communists. And they were trying to block everything that this man was trying to do. And so now look where we are. So this is what they wanted. They wanted a war. They provoked one. Now we're over there again. Different part of the world, but we're still over there again in somebody else's mess. So what have they decided to do? They say, well, we're not going to send you any fertilizer because they have been sending fertilizer to most of the world. So they say, oh, you want to come over here and meddle in our business and tell us that we can't go into that country and do whatever. It ain't your business. But since you want to block us, you want to block our ability to transmit funds through the SWIFT program and all that, we're going to cut off your fertilizer. We're going to starve your people. That's what we're going to do so that you can leave us alone. That's what and people are saying, it's his fault. Is it? No, it ain't it's not his fault. And I'm not a sympathizer. That guy's a psychopath too, okay? He ain't no good guy. But it ain't our business. Everything that goes on between one country and another country is not necessarily our business. This is what the last administration was trying to say. Every president up until 5 years ago drug us into some kind of a conflict with some other country. Here we were over there being the police of the world. It ain't our business. How about dealing with the homeless situation here? How about our vets homeless on the streets, nowhere to go? How about the housing crisis in Arizona? How about the housing crisis in California? That people can't, if people have to pay $2,000 and $3,000 a month for a studio apartment. How about that? How about we deal with our stuff here? What's wrong with putting your own people first. What kind of a parent would you be if you look at the kid down the street and say, poor thing, doesn't have any shoes on their feet, and here you got 6 children running around butt naked, and you're looking down the street at somebody else's problem and having a bleeding heart about their issue, but you're negligent towards your 5 or 6 children that don't have clothes. The clothes that they have, they've outgrown. They're dirty. They stink. And social services is looking to take them from you, but you want to put shoes on somebody else's kid. Do you understand how upside down that is? That's the title of this video. Okay, living, managing in an upside down world. Lord have mercy. Anyhow, you have to rethink your finances. Um, and I know that can be really, really hard, for some people. For years, I was telling people, get out of debt. I'm telling you, I saw this coming. Now, I'm not an economist, right? So I can't explain all the ins and outs of how things happen. I can't explain it any better than what I did just a minute ago. But I can say this. When prices go up and wages don't, it creates poverty. Now, that much I know. You cannot squeeze blood from a turnip. When prices go up and wages do not keep up with that increase, you end up in poverty. And that's what has happened. Now, prices are going up. Somebody's getting the money, and it ain't you. So you have to remanage how you're doing life. Now, number one, look at what you have coming in, right? Start keeping receipts. This is what I tell people when I've helped them with their finances, rebudgeting and all that, because I'm a certified life coach as well. And I've had to help people remanage their finances without getting too deep into their business. I don't want to get too deep into their business. However, there are things that we do as people, pleasure items and things that we do, like a theater or a movie or whatever, that we don't necessarily have to do as often as we do. Now, when I was living in Canada, when my husband and I first got married, I was going out with him on the job. And our business up there, and he didn't have to do this, but our business up there had him where he was out. We sold business toner and ink for businesses, schools, doctors' offices, stuff like that, for printers and faxes and copiers and stuff like that. Well, my husband is he's a very social man, and he likes to interact with people quite a bit. And I wanted to go out, and I just wanted to see, how do you do this thing? So I went out with him, and I started going out with him, and we were going around to these different businesses. And then, it'd be like, well, we've been out here since 8 this morning or 9 this morning, and now it's 11 o'clock or it's 11:30, and we need to eat. So we'd go eat. We'd go to some Japanese restaurant or a Chinese restaurant or whatever, and we'd eat whatever we wanted to eat. Then we'd get back in the car and go back around visiting with the clients and all this kind of stuff. And then we go home. Well, home was an hour away, so there's the gas of driving around all day and then going home and all this. And then Fridays, we'd like to call Fridays movie night. So we'd go out to the movies, or after we got off work, we'd go eat dinner, and then we'd go to a movie in the city that we were in at the time. And then one day, you're going to like this one. One day I said, how much are we spending in lunch? I don't know. Yeah, well, we need to know, right? How much are we spending? And how much are we spending in gas? I just got to thinking. Now, we weren't suffering, right? But something just hit me. How much are we spending? So we sat down one day and tallied up on average what we were spending every day on lunch. And then I said, Well, how much does it cost to go to the theater? Well, that was costing us, I can't remember, a lot. Like, I don't know, $40 or something. I don't know. And then, so we were doing that 4 times a month, maybe, at least twice. And then it was like, well, what's it costing in gas? I just started thinking about it. And let me tell you, you could have knocked me over with a feather when I saw how much money we were spending on lunch. Now we got food at home. We have a cooler. We can prepare stuff that we put in the cooler and take it with us if we're just going to want to eat lunch, right? Or we could just not eat lunch and go home. We couldn't help for the gas, right? So I thought, but we could help with the food issue. And we don't have to go to the theater. We got DVDs. DVDs are cheap. Whatever we didn't have, hey, we can wait for it to hit Walmart. We can go into the bin, pay $5 for, you know, as opposed to $40 or whatever it costs to go to the theater. $50. He's, oh my God. Lunch. Makes my nose itch thinking about it. Lunch. Month and a half, $800. We calculated $800 just lunch. Month and a half. Month and a half. Month and a half, he says. $800 for lunch. For sushi. Okay. These weren't even high dollar restaurants. These are little, kind of hole in the wall places that make the really good food, authentic. And oh my God, I was just stunned when I said, yeah, you know what? This is gonna stop. And he's like, well, I don't have to eat until I get home. I can just take some nuts with me, in a can, or some snacks or whatever. I'm like, I gotta eat more than that. So I guess what? I'm gonna stop going with you. So I stopped going with him because I find out that he's stopping and doing this because I'm with him. He wants me to be able to eat. Well, I ain't got to eat that bad. No, not $800 worth. So I'm just going to stay home. So you may have to adjust what you're doing to fit your current budget. Now, we weren't struggling or anything like that financially, but that was wasteful. I mean, to me, it was wasteful. It wasn't a lifestyle I had to have. And if we wanted to do so, where else, so the question was, if we're not going to spend the money on that, what else can we spend it on? Well, there is that mortgage, right? Because I still own my property here in the States, and he was, I owned my property here in the States. He owned our property up there. Both of us still had mortgages. I thought $800, that's money that can go toward the mortgage, right? Help pay it off early. So at the end of the day, I ended up paying off my home 13 years early and saved myself a whole lot of money by what? By doing what? Just stop going to lunch every day. Just stop going to lunch every day. So what I try to tell people to do in this upside down world, save your receipts. This is how we figured it out, right? Save your receipts for 1 month. And I mean every single receipt. I don't care if you went to the nail salon. I don't care if you went to the health store, gas, whatever. Every single receipt. Mark down in a book, a ledger, piece of paper, whatever, the date that you're going to start. Save it for an entire month. And at the end of the month, go back, look at those receipts, and see how much of that was spent on items that were not necessary. Just stuff that you're used to doing or stuff that you like to do or whatever. Because right now, you're going to have to tighten your belt if you're going to make it. You're going to have to give up something if you're going to make it in this upside down society that we're in right now. And so, I mean, like I said before, it's harder for some people than it is for others. And so, hi, Teresa. And so, hi, Lorna. Hello. London, England in the house. Good to have you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the thumbs up button. So that's one of the things that you can do to track your finances, right? To see where's the money going. And you'd be surprised how much money is just because sometimes we're people of impulse, right? You could be on your way out of a store, you're standing in the checkout line, and there's something like, oh, so then you grab it, and it ends up being part of your groceries, and not even necessarily groceries or whatever. Impulse shopping, right? And then at the end of 30 days or 31 days, sit down and sift through that and see what can I eliminate? What is on here that I don't need to do? And get rid of that. That's money you have saved yourself. Okay? That's one thing that you can do. Number two, look for bargains. People that shop impulsively don't necessarily, they don't looking for bargains. They just shopping on an impulse. Oh, they see that. Oh, I like that. I'm gonna get that. Oh, I like that. Oh, I want that. I'm gonna get that. Oh, I want this. I'm gonna get that. That's impulsive shopping, which can be very expensive. So what you want to do is discipline yourself. If you have to write yourself a list before you go to the store, make a budget. This is what I'm spending on food. Now, I know people that do this. This is what I'm spending on food. This is going to food and only food. This is not dishwashing detergent. This is not laundry detergent. This is just food. And this is going to last me. This is the money I'm going to spend this month for food only. When that money is gone, you're not spending anything else on food. You may have money allocated for other things, but it will not go to food, which means you have to learn to shop more wisely, right? Now, here's the challenge with shopping more wisely. A lot of people buy all organic stuff, which is very expensive comparatively speaking. And I'm not, listen, I'm not against anybody that buys organic. I buy organic. But the cheapest way to manage that and to be self-sustaining, even if you live in an apartment, is to learn to grow your own stuff. You can grow in containers, grow tomatoes, grow beans, string beans can all be grown in a container if you know how to do it. There's too many videos and books and stuff on YouTube and on Google that'll show you how to do that container garden growing or container growing for small spaces. They'll even teach you how to grow vertically. If you don't have the space where you can go this way, then they have these towers where you can grow up or you could grow down like this, right? Space savers. You have to think differently, folks. I'm telling you, because you're not going to be able to make it if you don't change the way you're living. So, growing your own food will take care of the organic part. Make your own pesticide. It's very easy. If you eat oranges or you use lemons, you can make your own pesticide that is not poison. It will not poison your food, and it'll keep your food wholesome and organic. You can make your own. I can give you a very quick recipe for making your own pesticide. If you take I don't know, gallon of water or half a gallon of water, 3 orange peelings, a cap full of lemon juice, a teaspoon of cinnamon, a quarter teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a tablespoon of olive oil. Bring it to a boil and then bring it to a simmer for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Turn it off. Let it sit all night. Don't put the oil in until it cools down. Put it in strain it, put it in a spray bottle. That is a very effective pesticide. Very effective. I've done it. My garden was prolific when I was in Canada. So much so that people that came around to inspect the area, I just happened to be outside, and I grew corn, bok choy, lettuce, spinach, carrots, potatoes. I had all this stuff going, and I had never done a garden before, ever in my life. I'm a city girl. I had never done a garden. And so I did that. And the other people around, they were using organic stuff too, because that was one of the things that it had to be organic. You couldn't use chemicals. But they did not know how to make the pesticide. So this one other lady asked me, meanwhile, the bugs were just eating up their food and I was doing a big harvest. I mean, I had so much food till I was trying to give it away because we didn't have any place to put it. At one point, I had to sterilize my bathtub, fill it up with water, and put the Swiss chard and all that stuff in the tub in cold water to keep it because I didn't have anywhere else in the refrigerator to put it. I had too much food. The bugs were not eating my food because I was using this natural pesticide to keep stuff going. Oh, and garlic. You add fresh garlic to it or minced garlic, um, which would keep the deer away. They don't like stuff like that, right? Because the other people, I'm telling you, their crops were getting ate up. And these inspectors were like, that's just amazing. How is it that you're doing that? I said, well, I just made my own pesticide and it keeps the bugs and the animals away. They don't like it. And when you get finished spraying, spray the top leaves, spray the bottom leaves. Don't spray the blooms, but the bottoms of the leaves, the tops of the leaves, the stems. And then whatever was left over, I'd shake it up and I'd pour it on the soil around the plant. That's what I did. It nourished the soil because everything was organic. The orange was in there. The garlic would kill bacteria that was harmful to the plants and all that. There's things that you can do, even living in an apartment, where you can grow your own food, at least some of it, and it'll help you with your grocery bill, right? That's one thing. In my last video, my live broadcast that I did a few minutes ago on my other channel, if you haven't been over there, it's called the Christopats Adventure and Homestead channel. It's here on YouTube, so just type that in, the Christopats. If you go to the top of this page, when this video gets finished, when this live broadcast gets finished, you go to the top, the home page of this channel, the Silver Crown. In the upper right hand corner, you'll see an icon there that says the Christopats. If you click on that, it'll take you to the channel. Anyway, so what's another thing that you can do? You have to budget, like I said. You can grow some of your own food. If you can't grow all of it, you can grow some of it. If you have room. Now, if you have space or you're in a place in a city where they allow you to have chickens, right? You can have your own eggs. I have more eggs than I know what to do with. When we come out here to the country, we giving eggs away. I've got eggs. My hens are happy. Them some happy little campers. Lord have mercy. I'm telling you, I don't even know what to do with them. I'm giving eggs away because I have way too many. Way too many. And they keep for a while because I don't wash them. They're fresh. You don't have to refrigerate them for a good 2 weeks before you need to put them in the refrigerator. And I got too many eggs. I've got 12 hens and they're happy, very happy birds. An egg a day from all the hens. Now, if you can imagine getting a dozen eggs every day and it's just two people, that's we can't keep up. And sometimes we're out here for 2 weeks and we go back and my assistant, the counter is covered in egg boxes. I mean, egg crates full of eggs. And I'm trying to sell them. I'm trying to give them away. And people are saying, I haven't gotten through the last 3 dozen that you gave me. I'm still trying to work on that. So anyway, if you can get chickens where you live, right? Find out from your city. Do you need a license? We have to have a license every year. And the only thing the license is for is that the animal welfare comes out to make sure that each chicken has enough space, right? So because, they're all into animal cruelty and all that. And we've had animal welfare officers come out and tell us, boy, when I die, I'm coming back as one of your chickens because we got this huge coop. We took 2 coops. We bought 2 coops, knocked the wall out, put the 2 coops together, and then made a massive run in an L shape. And then we put a hard roof on top, covered it in a tarp, covered the west side because of the sun, so they have some place to go in the shade. And then in the summertime, when it gets to be 85 degrees or higher, we've got these gallon water bottles that we put down in the deep freeze so they're frozen solid. And then we've got these pans that we sit outside. We fill them up with dirt. We take the frozen gallon bottles, make a little trench in the dirt, cover the water bottles with the dirt. The hens go on there, sit down, and go to sleep. Knocked out. Then they go lay an egg, another egg. I don't know why I'm doing this, but anyway, if you can have chickens, have chickens. Now, if you already have chickens, let me tell you how you can. Hi, Joy. Let me tell you what you can do to stretch the feed because the cost of feed has gone up, right? Some people would have to charge like $11 for a carton of eggs because they have so many chickens, their cost of feeding them is astronomical. I just have a small backyard flock, right? It can still get expensive, but let me tell you how you can stretch the feed. Ferment the food. If you take, say, see, when in the wintertime, because our hens are strictly organic, we give them lettuce and all kinds of greenery and stuff because their natural food source of grass and weeds and bugs and all that is dormant, right? Everything's brown. There aren't any bugs. There is no grass. There is no weeds. Everything's dormant, sleeping. So their diet has to be supplemented. So we get the lettuce. We buy the lettuce and all that, chop it up. I put oats in it and calcium and all kinds of stuff to keep the hens happy and healthy. I put like a capful of apple cider vinegar with the mother in it in their water so that they get the probiotics, keeps their gut healthy so that they don't get full of parasites and all that. And then you end up having a die off in your flock. Now, I don't eat my chickens. They will die of natural causes or they'll get caught by a hawk or something like that. I do not eat my birds. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I've never slain an animal and eaten it. I've never done that. Yeah, no, I'm not. I haven't done it. Now, I have caught fish, but I didn't kill it. Okay, I did. Somebody else killed it, and then I did the cleaning and all that, or they cleaned it and I cooked it, but I ain't kill it. So, does that mean I can't? Oh, I will if I have to, but I ain't got to yet. So, that's not something I got to make myself do. But if I had to, I would do it. But check with your local municipality and find out, can you have a flock? How big of a flock can you have? Now, here in our city, you cannot have a rooster in the city because of noise control. Roosters crow, and they don't just crow at the crack of dawn. They crow all day long. I don't know why, but they do. And we had one. We wasn't sure if it was a girl or a boy, and then it started crowing. Well, and then we had a neighbor knock on the door and say, "It's waking me up at 4 in the morning." I was like, "Oh my God!" So we had to put it down because nobody wanted a rooster because of that. And if you look back on some of the earlier videos, you'd see him. He was a white rooster, but we called him Frizzle because his feathers, he's a frizzle chicken. That's an actual kind of a breed, but his feathers went up like this rather than go down around his body. So we named him Frizzle, but we had to put him down because he was a little tiny little thing. He wouldn't even have made a chicken nugget sandwich, but we had to put him down because we did not want animal control to come and confiscate our flock because we had a neighbor complaining about not being able to sleep, and that was a reasonable complaint. So we had to put him down, and that broke my heart. And it was my husband's favorite bird, but he did it. I ain't do it. I'm saying we had to put him down. Wasn't me. I ain't do it. It was him. So anyway, if you can have a backyard flock, get a backyard flock.
Don't forget your chicken permit.
Yeah, I already told him that. If you may need a license for it. I think ours was like $25 for the year. And it's, they just come out, inspect, they make sure that you're keeping the food in a container where rodents and stuff can't get in and excrete in it and poop in it and all that and make your chicken sick. And then, you just got disease running through the neighborhood. So they want to make sure that the food is properly stored, that they have a decent water source, that if your land or your yard is prone to flooding, that the coop is up off the ground where it doesn't get flooded and your chickens end up with trench foot, where their skin sloughs off because their feet are in water all the time. Just stuff like just basic animal care, right? Check into that. At least you will have eggs, even if you don't want to eat the chicken itself. You will have eggs, right? So there's that. Um, Another thing that you can do as far as learning how to survive and manage yourself in this upside down world is consider alternate methods of doing what you do now. I talked about this in the last video, and I talked about this before in previous videos. For example, a couple of winters back, when we had that hellacious winter that swept through the United States, Texas, for some reason, was hit very badly. Oklahoma was hit very badly. We had temperatures that went below, well below zero, into the -20s and -30s and stuff like that. Well, our region is not used to that type of weather, and people did not know how to manage. It was very, very difficult. We were here in the RV, and we had our water heater went out. We had stuff happen here in this RV. One of the things that it taught us was that we were not prepared as we needed to be should something like that happen again. So it was a bad thing, but it was a good thing because it showed us where the weak spots were and what we needed to shore up so that if that something like that happened again, we'd be ready. So we ended up having to get a new water heater, and it was a couple other things we had to do. We had one of our lines, not in the RV, but to our water source to the RV froze. And we were trying to figure out what the heck happened. Um, well, the line leading from the city into the coach is wrapped in heat tape, right? And then that's wrapped in like, those, um, I don't know what you call them, the styrofoam tubes that people use in pools and stuff. We split those open for insulation and stuck the hose inside of it and then wrapped it in other stuff. Anyhow, it was well insulated, but one of the heat tapes went out. So the water froze somewhere along the line. Okay. So now we didn't have any water coming into the coach. Then when we finally did we figured that out, changed that, and now the water that's coming in smells like mildew. And I, what in the heck is going on with the water? In the meantime, we still have to live life. We still have to wash our bodies. We still have to wash our hands. We still have to cook food. We still have to do this, and that, and the other. Fortunately, we had a few gallons of water on board, right? But let me tell you, it was a headache having to open up a gallon of water and then ration the water to washing our hands, to cooking food, to making coffee, and all this kind of stuff. We found out we were not as prepared. So something that we needed to do if we were going to live life in this coach, like we prefer to be here than in the city, is we needed to get a more permanent line that led to our coach. So Mr. Viking, which is what I call my husband, got out there and decided we're going to dig up this land where this hose is. And it was a hose. It was a drinking water hose specifically made for RVs. But it had been in the ground, wrapped up for 3 years. We never thought about it anymore. It was wrapped up. Never occurred to me that the stupid thing would degrade over time. Well, it did. So we ended up going to the plumbing supply place or wherever he went, and we got regular water line that a company would use or the city would use to run water to your house. And we put that in instead, right? And rather than using copper or something like that that would degrade, we used PEX line and or whatever kind of line it is. I don't know. But anyway, it's permanent. So, and we flushed our tank and did all that, but it showed us that we needed to make sure that we had water on board for emergencies and also to keep our onboard tank sanitized. So that's the other thing that we did because the water had just been sitting there. We had been using city water, and I said, We haven't sanitized that tank. So even if we had water in our RV tank, we would not have been able to drink that water because it had been sitting there for several months without coming through the pipes, without being used. It had sat in the heat, now it's sitting in the cold, and it probably had bacteria in it. So we had to fill that up, put a half a quart or a quarter cup of bleach in it, let it sit for 2 hours, drain it out, fill it up again, rinse it out, drain that out, fill it up again, rinse it out, then fill it up again, and now you can drink it. What did that teach us? That we needed water on board that was drinkable all the time in case something like that happened. So I said all that to say you need extra water in your house or in your apartment, right? The water that you have in there, say if the pipes froze in your building or in your home, you still have to have water. You need water to cook with, you need water to bathe with. You need approximately 3 gallons of water every day for every person in your home. So you can plan that out for 2 weeks, for a month, maximize your space. However much space you can dedicate to that, dedicate it to that, right? That's one thing. Making sure you have water. Hi, Andrea. Hey there. New York in the house. Life is scary right now, she said. Yes. Uh anyway, are y'all tracking with me? Okay, because some will apply to you, some of it might not apply to you. But you can share this channel with other people and maybe it'll give them some ideas of things that they can do. So that's your water. Now your heat source. We talked about this in the other channel not too long ago. Heat source. When that cold hit like that, people did not have heat. The lines froze. There was no electricity. There was no heat coming in. No trucks were moving. Batteries were frozen. I mean, it was a bad situation. What you can do, and I said this before, if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or one of those stores, um, a flower place, buy a large clay pot. And you know how they come with the trays with them. You don't want the tray that comes with it. You want the next size up, right? You can get tea light candles or you can get a regular candle uh, and sit it on the tray. Light the candles, invert the pot, turn the pot upside down and sit it on the tray. And it will radiate heat from that clay. Okay? It will give you heat. It will keep you alive until they get the heat turned back on, whatever the issue is. That is how you would stay warm in a winter crisis situation, right? Buy wool socks. Make sure you have extra, hats and things that you can put on that can cover your ears. Because there were people that were living in their apartments and stuff that literally froze to death. It was a very sad thing. They couldn't get out, they couldn't go anywhere, they had no heat, they had no family, and it was a terrible situation. So there's ways that you can keep yourself warm in cold situations like that. In the heat, the heat is a little bit more challenging because in the cold you can put things on. In the heat, you have to take things off, right? And you may not be able to do that everywhere you're at. I'm just saying, don't take that all off. Not depending on where you're at. Just on anyway. Um, you can get some towels. You can wet them down, wring them out, lay them across your shoulders or the base of your neck, on your belly, on top of your head. It'll pull the heat off of you and act like an evaporation coil, and it'll help keep you cool. Stay out of the sun as much as possible. Um, I get a feeling this is going to be an extremely hot summer. Okay. Now, I had mentioned this before. Several years back, Oklahoma was in a drought, had been in a drought for 5 years. Our lieutenant governor at the time signed a bill giving these companies permission to what they call seed the clouds. That means they go up there, they put some kind of chemical, they spray it up there, it causes condensation and then it would rain. Okay. The reason she felt like she had to do that was because we were going to lose all of our crops. Our livestock was dying from the heat. Farmers were losing their crops. The city, the town, or state would have been bankrupt. We wouldn't have had any crops at all. They just would have fried. And so she did that. Now, it saved the crops, but what was that stuff? Okay. What was that made it rain? So they can manipulate the weather. All right. That's an example of how I know they can manipulate the weather. It was even on the news. They can manipulate the weather. So let's just say another country has a hate on for our country, or we have a hate on for that country. If they can do that on a local level, they can do it on a national and an international level. If they see another country as a threat for whatever reason, or they want to punish that country for not playing ball, or for not doing what they want them to do, they can shoot stuff up into space or use satellites to shoot stuff down onto the earth to disrupt their atmosphere over that country or regions of that country to destroy their crops. Okay, I'm telling you, this stuff is going on right now. Right now. Some of it's happening in the air, some of it's happening on the ground. Like right now, we have the country that supplies a lot of the world with fertilizer saying, y'all are meddling in our business over here, in Russia. So we ain't sending you no fertilizer. Well, what does that mean? That means the farmers can't grow their crops. Not as many. So what does that mean? That means whatever stuff they send to the store is going to go up in price because they don't have half the crops that they used to have. So what does that mean? That means you got to pay more money for a little bit of stuff. And round we go because these knuckleheads at the top of the food chain are playing chicken with each other. Okay. And it's costing the rest of us a lot of money. So grow your own food, manage heat, stress, right? So you don't get heat strokes, stay out in the sun as much as possible, get enough sun where you're taking in your vitamin D because you need your immune system to stay strong. You may have to change the way you're eating. Now, if you can't go all organic and you can't grow your own food for whatever reason, maybe you have physical limitations where you just can't do it. Okay. So you buy what you can buy, you buy as wholesome a food that you can buy, and you eat that, but you limit yourself. If you're used to eating all day, whenever you just feel like eating, you better discipline yourself to not snack so much, to not, you just gonna have to discipline yourself so that your food will stretch, right? If you're gonna buy food and you're thinking about, well, I need to buy for 6 months or what, we got longer than 6 months to get through this. Okay, I'm just telling you. We're only a year into this. Okay. We got longer than 6 months. So you better think long term. Think long term. When will it be over? We don't know. We do know that the Great Depression lasted 10 years. Let that hit you. We weren't alive for that, but our parents were, our grandparents were. It lasted 10 years before there was a turnaround because of economic decisions that are going on right now. Here we go again. Nothing new under the sun. It's just that it's new to this generation. So there you go. Look up online. What did they eat during that time? What kind of meals did they provide? What kind of meals did they prepare for their families? And they had bigger families then than what people are having now. You have whole generations coming up now saying, I'm not having kids. I'm not having kids. I'm not bringing kids into this world like this. Now, I heard that when I was coming up, and everybody I know that said it got kids. But the kids that are coming up now saying, we ain't going to have no Social Security. We're not going to have any medical. We're not going to have anything. So we're not having any kids. But they still have to live too, right? They still have to live too. So anyway, watch your money. Keep track of your finances. Um, there are probably things that you're buying and doing that you don't really need to. It's just been a benefit of living in America, where we were the most wealthy country on the planet. And now we're struggling because of bad policies and bad decision making up at the White House and at the Pentagon and Capitol Hill and wherever all else where they're giving themselves 20% raises while the rest of us are trying to maneuver around their selfish psychopathic decisions. So there's that. Um, so Andrea says she's been hoarding water, now stocking up on dried beans. And this is the other thing when it comes to getting your food and water and stuff. Get stuff that you know you will eat, right? Don't just get stuff just to be getting stuff. Get stuff that you know that you and your family will actually use. Otherwise, you're gonna have to look at that stuff one day and go, ugh, and have to make yourself eat something that you don't enjoy. You'll probably not eat very much of it, and now you're going to be compromising your nutrition, right? Get stuff that you will eat. Um, I do not recommend ramen noodles. Okay, I saw a documentary about ramen noodles, and first of all, they ain't real noodles, and second of all, it takes longer to digest in your stomach than meat. Meat takes 72 hours. Okay, you eat a steak, it ain't gone for 2 days later. Okay, that's how long it takes for your stomach and your intestines to break that protein down. Ramen noodles is not real food. Okay, it's not. It's cheap, but let that be a last resort. Okay, let it be a very last resort because it is not good for you. It's not. It doesn't break down well. It just doesn't. So if you have to eat that, then throw some carrots in with it or throw something that has some nutritional value in with it and only use half of the seasoning packet because it is loaded with way too much salt. And then you're going to find yourself with high blood pressure issues, right? So listen to me acting like I'm everybody's mother. Anyway, just saying. Um, Now, Andrea says, my boyfriend lived in an apartment where they just shut off the heat in the wow from November 2021 until now. They shut off the heat. Well, tell him what I said. Get a flower pot. He can keep himself somewhat warm, where, oh my word, that's crazy. So now a lot of places are going to be shutting off the heat November. That's kind of early though. But a lot of people are going to be shutting off the heat now because tomorrow, I believe it is the first day of spring. Um, I think they weren't supposed to do that till like, I don't know. I thought they were supposed to keep it on from November to February or something like that. But maybe it depends on where you live. Anyway, anybody have any questions? I don't want to keep you guys forever. I've been on here for an hour. I can't believe I talked for an hour. 2 hours now. Whew. Okay, Amber says, I think is when they are going to pull the plug on the Southwest. Yes, it was pipe covering. Thank you, Amber. I couldn't think of the name of that noodle stuff that went around my drinking thing. Um, they're going to do something here. We get tornadoes here in the Southwest, and I don't put it past the powers that be to do something. They're going to do something because the idea is to make things so bad that everybody has to depend on their governments for sustenance. Now they got you over barrel. If you don't know how to sustain yourself without government help, you're in a bad spot. You really are because you got to do whatever they tell you to live. You have to do whatever they demand of you to live because you don't know how to sustain yourself. And I feel sorry for people who are not physically able. Now, Chris and I, we ain't no spring chickens, okay? I got more going on in my head than I got actually going on. I'm sitting here looking at all this land we bought, and we're sitting here in this RV, and I'm like, we could have a couple of goats or something out here, helping us with these weeds, because Lord have mercy. I looked out the window, and it's almost time to mow again. Not me, him. I don't mow. I'll mow when he's dead. I'm not mowing. I ain't mowing. I don't even know how to turn that stupid thing on, that riding mower. No, thank you. But Anyway, let's see if there's any questions. Ah, Andrea says ramen noodles looks like styrofoam. It kind of does. Now I gotta admit, now when I was in my 20s, I was eating it. It was quick. I found out I didn't really like the seasoning packet because it was too salty. But it was quick. It fill you up all right because it took forever to digest. So you stayed kind of full. But anyway, oh, I was going to tell you about how to stretch your chicken's feed. I forgot. Okay, if you take, uh, say, a cup of feed and put 2.5 cups of water, turn it into a mush. Now it should be wet and crumbly, right? If it takes on all the water. If it's like concrete or a solid mass, you need to add more water until it becomes crumbly. Why would you do this? It bulks it up, right? It bulks it up. They won't need as much water and they won't need as much food because they're more full and a lot of the water is already in the food as opposed to dry pellets, right? It's kind of like the best analogy I can come up with is if you take oatmeal, let's say you have oatmeal or grits, and you just pour it in a cup, right? Well, there it is. But if you take that same cup of oatmeal or grits and put it in a pan with 2 cups of water, now it's swelled up to 2.5 times the amount it was before. You get what I'm saying? Same cup, but twice as much. So if you do that with your feed, with all of your animals, it'll go a long way. It'll cut your bill in half, or you'll at least break even. And you won't be breaking the bank trying to feed your animals. So let's see, what else? I talked about how to stay warm. Okay, so cooking. If you have all electric, or if you have gas, right? And something happens, say there's an EMP, an electric magnetic pulse. Say some other country gets really ticked off with us and decides they want to shoot down a satellite or whatever all else is going on up there in the stratosphere. And all of a sudden, and I mean all, of the electronics in our country go out. I mean, everything goes out. There ain't no pumping stations. There is no gas. You can't get gas. You can't pay for anything at a register because it's run by electric. Can't get gasoline because the pumps run by electric, right? You can't cook because you have an electric stove. You don't have any heat because you have electric heat. You don't have water because your water tank has an electric spark. Right? You can't everything. Your car won't run because it has a computer chip in it. It's electric. We're in the Stone Ages, folks. That's what would happen if another country got ticked off enough at us to hit us in the atmosphere like that and shut down our power plants and everything. You know who would be making it? Those that have the bunkers, the super rich that have moved their money somewhere else or put their money into tangible assets and does stuff like that because you won't have any money unless you have tangible assets. You have nothing. You know why? Because all the banking records and everything are wiped out because the computers run by electric. Are you following this? This is where this could go if some other country over there gets sick of us meddling in their stuff and they say, you know what, we're done with you. We're just going to knock you back to the Stone Ages so that you have to spend the rest of your life trying to pick your country up off its knees. Meanwhile, the citizens get to suffer, okay? And you have to learn how to live differently. This is why it's good to have different skills. It's good to know how to protect yourself. It's good to know how to protect your family. It's good to know how to protect your stuff. It's good to know how to do this stuff so that when this stuff happens, if it happens, and it's more closely to a when than it is a if, you won't be caught completely off guard, not knowing how to take care of yourself or the people around you, right? You also need to know who you can trust. Now, people you can trust. This thing that we're in has been going on long enough for you to know who you can talk to and who you can't. You already know who's bought into the BS and who has not, right? You can tell by what they say. You can tell by how they're living. Are they still, running around terrified of the boogeyman and all? Have they gotten back to living their lives or what? What is going on? You can tell by the decisions that they've made for their life whether you can trust them to talk to them about what you're doing. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, we went through a time during World War II and World War One that your neighbors and sometimes people as close as your family members could not be trusted because they were sympathetic to the government. They were sympathetic to the complete and total takeover of their life by the government because they were too weak or ignorant to know how to manage their own life. So they'd rather the government make all the decisions for them, right? If you were not of that persuasion or of that mindset, then they turned you into the government and the government came and took your stuff, um, and put you in a camp where you were summarily executed. Okay. So now, if you think back, you'll know what I'm talking about. It wasn't just one race of people that happened to. It was anybody that did not toe the line and do what their government was telling them to do. So, um, think about that before you run your mouth and start talking to people about what you're doing, how much stuff you have, where you have it, and all that. Okay. Because when they get desperate enough, when their eyes finally open and they realize that they've been played, they've been duped, and they have literally been robbed, they're coming for your stuff because you told them where it is, you told them how much you have, and all that. And even though they didn't agree with you during that whole time, you were trying to talk to them and convince them, your food looking pretty good right about then. So you might have to fight for your stuff to keep it or protect your family or whatever. I'm just saying, keep that in mind. Okay. Is there something you guys want me to talk about here for the next couple of minutes that I didn't mention? Because I think I did. I did your money. Now listen, let me say something else about. Oh lordy, let me settle in for this. Whoop, sorry.
Barter items.
Let me say something else about money.
Barter items.
Wealthy people do not keep their money in the bank. If they do, they keep very little in the bank. Very little. Why? Because they know they can't trust the banks because they've lived long enough to see the banks fail. Okay. They've seen the banks come in the Obama administration with their hand out asking for a bailout. Remember that? What did they do with all the money? What happened to all the money that they took in for selling bad mortgages and all that? Where's the money? Where'd the money go? Where'd your money go? So, anyway, I would keep as little money as possible in any banking institution. Now, the reason I say that is because under the current administration, the banks, PayPal, Zelle, Chime, all these other little financial things that you can do online are now required to report to the government any transaction that you make and any money that you have in your account that is over $500. Did you know that? See, a lot of things are being pushed through Congress. Well, everybody's saying Russia, 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 Russia. That's what they did before. Russia, everything was Russia, 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 Russia. None of it was true. It came out that none of that stuff was true, but the whole world was focused on Russia, 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 Russia. Just like now, while they're doing all this other stuff over here. It's sleight of hand. Okay. So whenever the mainstream media is focused on an issue over here and they just keep promoting that and promoting that and promoting that, you better believe that the devil's busy over here doing something else. And you better be paying attention to what's going on over here or what's going on over there and stop looking over there because they are not for you. Okay. They are the enemy of the people. And that's That's what the last administration said, and they were absolutely right about that. Now, keep as little as you can in the bank. They're going to change the monetary system. This is what they're going to do. Where is that going to leave you if they do that? Well, it's a plus and it's a negative. What makes it a plus is, let's say that EMP thing happened. Everything gets wiped out, all financial records, everything. Well, hey, hallelujah, you don't owe nobody nothing because there's no record of it. Uh, but the bad thing is, you also don't own nothing because there's no record of it. There's no record of you having paid that debt, right? So if they say, we're coming to your house, and they've already said you're going to own nothing and you'll be happy, they got a way of trying to pull this stuff off, y'all. I'm telling you. So, what do the rich folks do? They put their money in tangible assets. They put their money in or gold or metals or um, gems or real estate, or they put it in tangible assets that can be easily liquidated. But they don't leave it with the banks because they know the banks can fail. They're the ones running the banks, right? If they decide they want to crash a bank, they'll just do it. So that's what they'll do. They don't care what happens to your money. They're going to get theirs out, right? So that's what they're doing now. When they're printing all this money, printing money, printing money, printing money, the more you have, the less valuable it is. And they have flooded the market with 20 times more money than has been made in the history of this country. And they did it in 1 year. Your dollar ain't worth squat, okay? You know the value of the dollar is whatever people think it is. That's because it literally has no value at this point, but people still think it has value, so they're still taking it. You can still take it to a place and exchange it for goods and services, as long as people are buying into that it's actually worth something. But it's not. It lost its value a long time ago, and they just keep the rig going. They just keep it going. It's crazy. Anyway, now let me explain something else to you about your money in the bank. Amber said about the IRS hiring, sharks to come after you. Let me tell you something. If you guys were familiar with this convoy thing that happened up there in Canada where we used to live, my husband got out, I'm telling you, in the nick of time. I'm telling you. Oh my God. Anyway, the people that were part of the convoy, which was a very, very peaceful demonstration, everything was very peaceful. They were doing bounce houses and stuff like that. It was like a huge block party. No arrest, nobody shot, nobody stabbed, nothing like that happened to anyone until the police showed up. When the police showed up, everything went to crap. People started getting beat by the police. People's gas tanks were filled up with foam. Their lines were cut. The brake lines were cut. Their vehicles were towed off. None of that stuff happened until the police showed up. What'd that tell you? The police had been bought and paid for by the government to terrorize the people to make them go home because the prime minister felt like what the truckers were protesting about, and I quote, were unacceptable views. They said, we're tired of the mandates. We're tired of our kids not being able to go to school. We're tired of them having to cover their face for hours at a time. It's making our children sick. We just want to go back to work. We want our lives back. We've cooperated. It has not worked. Let us get back to what we got to do to support our families. And the prime minister said, this is an unacceptable view. And he treated them like domestic terrorists. And not only did he do that, have them arrested, thrown in jail, but he ordered the banks to seize their finances and close their accounts. Do you hear me? It was legalized theft on a national level. They literally took the citizens' money, took their livelihood, canceled their licenses to be able to run their businesses, all because they wanted to get back to their lives. Now, if you think they don't want to do that here, the difference between this country and that country is that there are more weapons in this country, ballistically speaking, than there are people. So they figured we might want to slow it down a bit for the United States and not do it all at once or use a different method to bring the people into subjugation because U.S. citizens and people that are patriots are not passive, not by any stretch. Peaceful, but not passive. Okay? Peaceful, but not passive. We ain't looking for a fight, but we know how. Unlike Canadians who are peaceful and passive, they ain't looking for a fight, but when a fight comes to them, they don't know what to do because they so passive. They just say, "Well, we guess we'll go home," and that's what they did. They all just packed up, and went home because the heat of the situation got so hot. They just decided it's not worth it. Oh, your freedom's not worth it, so you're just going to go home. Your children are not worth it, so you're just going to go home. Okay, so they went home. So that was the end of that. Now they're broke, don't have their businesses, and they still have the same mandates on. There you go. You got to be willing to go the distance, whatever that distance is, right? You guys need to be reading the comments because Amber's making some good points here. I'm telling you.
You tell them about Thor's daughter stole her car, $3,800 fine.
We have a family member in Canada who was at those peaceful rallies up there, and they really were peaceful. It's not like what you saw here when you had these domestic terrorist groups running through CHOP and all this, downtown Seattle and all that, burning down stuff, demanding stuff of the mayor, and the mayor getting out there and marching with them and all this kind of stupid stuff. And you have a newscaster standing in front of a burning building talking about it's a peaceful protest, right? These people are nuts. Just saying what he was told to say because, he wanted to keep his little job. No, that wasn't the case up there. It really was peaceful because they don't know how to do nothing else, right? They're very passive. That's why I couldn't stay because, that ain't me. So, our cousin had her car towed.
Her daughter.
That's your cousin too, isn't it? Isn't her daughter your cousin? Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's your second cousin. So, your second cousin, your cousin, it's like Maurice and Sarah are my cousins, even though Noni's my cousin. They're still my cousins. So, never mind. He doesn't get the whole second and third remove thing. But anyway, our cousin, one of our young cousins, had her car towed because it was there. It was there. $3,800 fine because her car was parked there.
And she can't get her car back until she pays the
fine. And she can't get the car back until she pays the fine. What's the crime? Just being there. You were there. So you're a sympathizer with these people who want to get back to their lives. Shame on you.
Conspiracy to create mischief.
Yeah, they charged her with conspiracy to create mischief, whatever that means. She was thinking about it. I mean, she didn't conspire with anyone. It's crazy. Anyway, all right, you guys, listen. Let me see. Uh-oh. Hi, Joshua. Now, I was asking, is there something I did not cover that you guys wanted me to talk about? Because I talked about money. I talked about how to stay warm. I talked about how to stay cool. I talked about how to grow your food. I talked about how to make your own insecticides. And some of you may know I've been working on making my own pharmaceutical because I wanted to try to get away from as many pharmaceuticals as possible. I still believe in medicine, right? But the people that are in the labs right now they're nuts, all right? So I don't want nothing from Dr. Frankenstein who might try to slide something in on me without telling me what it is, okay? Like they did all the world over and then want to try to force something on me. So, if you get the occasional headache or something and you want to take an aspirin, you don't have to go to the Bayer company. You don't have to take their stuff. You can make your own aspirin. You can make it by using the bark of the white willow tree. That's what I've done. My husband has woken up with aches and pains. There's something called stingweed that used to grow in my backyard. And I did not know it was medicine. I had no idea. I just found this stuff out, you guys. Like last year, I started making my own medicines, my own natural medicines that are like the equivalent of the pharmaceuticals. And so far, I've made my own diuretics. I've made my own aspirin. I've made my own Valium. I just found out it was like Valium. I was watching this naturopath doctor, and he was talking about valerian root. Well, I have valerian root, and I made a tincture out of it. And I thought, boy, this stuff really helps me to sleep, right? But he says I wouldn't recommend it as a sleep aid because you'll wake up feeling groggy. Well, I do wake up feeling groggy, but I didn't know why until he explained it. That valerian root, it has been tested long period of time, several different people, seven different categories of people. It has the exact same effect as Valium, which is a sedative, right? Which is why when I was in pain or something like that, and I took some valerian root that I mixed with lavender, which relaxes the nervous system, and passion flower, which also calms the system, and then I put valerian root. I was knocked out. Okay. I was like, man, I slept good. Well, that's why. Anyway, his reason for not recommending it as a sleep aid is because you will, wake up groggy. And if you got to drive or something like that, it's like having that drug in your system. The other thing for pain or a pain management thing is wild lettuce. That's the stingweed that grows in your backyard, probably, depending on where you live. I didn't know that. I lived in my house for 30 something years. I was sick of pulling them weeds, pulling them, pulling them, pulling them. I don't even see them anymore now. But had I known that it was a natural pain reliever, I wouldn't have done that. Now I have to buy it because it doesn't grow in my yard anymore. But it was growing tall, like 3 feet tall, 4 feet tall. I was thinking, man, these weeds. And I'd be out there pulling it up, and yeah, you have to wear gloves because it would sting your hand. Well, when you would pull it, if the branch snapped or the stem snapped, this white milky like stuff would come out of it. That's the medicine. And that medicine has the same effect as morphine. It's not addictive, but it has the same effect on the body as morphine. It is a painkiller, right? So I just learned how to make my own stuff. I'm just, so I've got little, my little shelf with my little stuff on it. And that's what I've been using. Um, Amber says, are you insinuating that the monkey pus and snake venom is coming back? Well, some would call it that. Some would call it natural medicine. But anyway, to each his own, right? If you guys want to supply the Bear Company, and buy their aspirin or Tylenol or uh, ibuprofen, knock your socks off. I'm not against it. It's just that the natural medicine doesn't have the side effects, right? Um, there's a bark called cat's claw that works the exact same way as ibuprofen. What I haven't figured out yet is the dosage, right? What dosage is right for me? I haven't figured that out yet, so I'm gonna keep working with it till I get it figured out. Um, but anyway, there's things that you can do where if you make your own medicines, you buy enough of the natural herbs where you can make your own medicine. All of this can be done using glycerin, or you can use apple cider vinegar, or you can use drinkable alcohol, brandy or vodka is what most people will use. Said it before, I'll say it again. This is not something that you are making that you're going to turn a whole bottle up to your mouth and get lifted. Okay. That's not what you're doing. This is medicine that you would take in a dropper that's full about this much. And that is your dose, so you're not going to get drunk off of it unless you have some kind of a sensitivity to alcohol. That's why people will use apple cider vinegar that has the mother in it, or they will use vegetable non-GMO glycerin, which is a derivative of alcohol, without the effects of alcohol. Okay. So you can do that. Some people don't want to do the alcohol for religious purposes or whatever. They may have something going on with their liver and they don't want to take in alcohol, whatever. You don't have to. You can still make your own medicines and be just as healthy, right, as you would be if you took a pharmaceutical. Now, there are some things that you would still need a pharmaceutical for. Okay, so I am not against um, commercial medicine. I am against the abuse of medicine as, a gotcha kind of a thing. Take our medicine or we got you. We're going to take your job or we're going to take your kids away or we're going to do whatever. I'm against that. I don't want to support the industry anymore. So that's why I've been studying a lot, making my own stuff, and I just choose to go the natural route unless I have to do something different. Um, I made an antibiotic. I had an abscess that wasn't going away. And even though I made an antibiotic, I'm not sure that it was dealing with the type of bacteria that was in this abscess. So I called my dentist and I had him call me in some antibiotics. Okay. I mean, I don't not trust that doctor. He's a good doctor. But I needed something stronger than what I was able to make. In that case, I would use a pharmaceutical. But that will not be my go-to on an everyday basis, is what I'm saying. So, all right, you guys. I've been on here an hour and a half. And I appreciate you coming by. Some of you guys were on my last broadcast, so you've been hanging with me for 2.5 hours, almost three altogether. I really appreciate that. I don't know when I'll be back on. I know this was very spontaneous. I usually try to give you a heads up, like on a Monday or Tuesday. I'll be on Friday, but there's so much going on. I never know when I'm going to be able to get on now because I'm involved in a lot of things politically and it's taking up a lot of my time. I literally have to come out here to the country so that I just rest and don't do anything. When I go back to the city, it's nuts. It's crazy. I'm in meeting after meeting after meeting, phone call after phone call after phone call that can last an hour, hour and a half, and it just consumes my whole day. So I come out here where it's quiet and there's nothing to do because there's no stores. And our neighbor is way down there somewhere. So there's nothing to do. So I come out here so I can do nothing but eat snacks and watch movies and relax and talk with you guys. So anyway, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Please write me. Look at my email address in the description box and write me. Let me know if there's a topic you want me to cover. And I will do my best to cover that topic. Now, if you don't write me, don't be moaning and complaining. She never talks about this or she never talks about that. Well, if I don't hear from you, I probably won't. So you can write me and tell me what it is you want me to discuss or explain more. Or if you just want to just write me a personal letter, I can do that too. If you want to write me something that you want me to read to the rest of our community here, I'll be happy to do that too if it's appropriate. Okay. Meanwhile, you guys have a good rest of your weekend. Thank you for hanging out with me and listening to me go on and on and on forevermore. Make sure you read the comments, comment on the comments, and I'll see you guys the next time I come on in this upside down world.